So, at the time I'm making this video, the spring 2021 anime season is almost upon us. Though it will probably already be here by the time I release this video, and that means a wave of new and returning anime is coming our way. So, I wanted to try talking about one of them. But those aren't the ones I'm focusing on for this video. Instead, I feel more like talking about a certain other returning anime. Mostly because, to me, the first season did not get as much attention as it should have. And honestly, to me, was just overall underrated. I'm going to talk about the anime Marimashita Iruma-kun. I probably butchered that. The English title is Welcome to Demon School Iruma-kun. Now, straight away, this is not meant to be like a thorough, comprehensive analysis of any one aspect of the show, like what I'm doing with my Goblin Slayer videos. This is meant to be more of a general overview of the strengths I feel this show has and the deeper messages that lay beneath the surface. And I'll also talk a bit about why I feel this show is underrated. So here comes the basic summary. The MC, aka the titular Iruma-kun, is a blue-haired 14-year-old whose shitty parents sell his soul to a super-powerful demon who then drags Iruma into the demon world. Fortunately for him, though, the demon turns out to be this kind, silly, extravagant old man who just got jealous of all his friends bragging about their grandkids, so without having any kids of his own to start with, he decided the best thing to do was to buy one from another world. Yeah, it's pretty obvious that he's more than a little kooky. Yeah, that. But even then, that isn't really the main plot, as Iruma is then enrolled into the Basilisk School for Demons. On his first day, Sullivan, the demon from before, warns him that if any other demon finds out that he's human, they'll most likely eat him. So, Iruma vows to not stand out so he can survive through school. Yeah, been there, buddy. This is difficult, however, given that Sullivan can't help but want to show off his new grandson to everyone. On top of that, Iruma quickly makes an enemy of the head teacher and is thrown into the class designated for misfits. Thus, the show follows the many wild circumstances that occur with him trying to fit into this school full of demons and getting swept up in these wild misadventures with his various new schoolmates. So, let's move on to talk about some of the show's strong points. When I want to describe this show, one of the first words that comes to mind is charming. This is a very charming show. That's probably the best word to describe it. Especially the characters. The rather large cast of this show are all just very likable, quirky, passionate, adorable, and just downright endearing. Seriously, the characters are probably the biggest draw of this show to me. Despite the fact that most of these characters are chaotic and violent demons, they are also some of the nicest and most wholesome characters I've come across in all of anime. Even the reoccurring background characters are great. But that's not the only element I enjoy. I also really like the art style. It hits that particular blend of spooky and goofy that I love so much. The look of this show just reminds me of Halloween, which is one of my favorite times of the year. I mean, just look at these backgrounds. The characters' designs by themselves are pretty good too. It's very similar to the typical anime style, but I feel like there's enough exaggeration and cartoony elements to make it stand out from the norm. And my god, the sheer variety of expressions each of these characters can make is astounding. I swear, there's something else about the character designs that I find really striking, but I can't quite find the words to describe it. Might be the line work? Maybe someone else out there sees the same thing and can put it into words for me. Let's see. What else about it do I enjoy? How about the music? The soundtrack is very high energy and once again is that nice blend of goofy and spooky that I can't help but love. And I also can't forget to mention the full-on goddamn musical numbers, which they did actually perform in the English dub as well, which you better goddamn know I appreciate the extra effort that must have gone into that. So, to sum up, this show is just a delight. Okay. So, I love all of those elements of the show, but I can tell you the exact moment when this series really won me over. Now, I read the manga first, so this moment for me first occurred in chapter 13, but the correlating episode to that chapter would be episode 8. So, at this point in the story, Iruma's human nature has been discovered by the school president, Ameri. However, Iruma has also discovered her dark secret, a collection of forbidden text, aka shoujo manga from the human world. I love this goddamn show. Realizing that Iruma is actually capable of reading these strange texts that Ameri found herself unexplainably attracted to, they reach a compromise. She doesn't turn him in, and in return, he reads the manga to her. So, Ameri and Iruma are in the middle of one of their manga reading sessions, and they come to this scene in the manga that gets Ameri a bit curious.
So dreams. Referring to ambitions. Well, sure, I guess.
So yeah, this sparks up a conversation between the two about dreams and ambitions. Ameri states how she is very proud to be a demon, and wants the other students to be just as proud, and wants to work to make their school one a demon would long to attend. This is the show laying out one of its biggest and most fundamental themes. It's that key word, ambition. Now, for a lot of characters in this show, it's about the pursuit of their ambitions. But for Iruma specifically, this show covers his journey to discover his ambition. See, when Iruma-kun is asked what his ambition is, he answers,
Honestly, I'm pretty satisfied just having fun with all the people I've met around here.
This answer doesn't satisfy Ameri, though. As she points out, this isn't really an ambition he's trying to strive towards, but rather a passive ideal he believes in. And there is a difference. She specifies that she wants to know what he wants to achieve for himself. What is his dream? What does he want to accomplish? Thinking about all of this causes Iruma to, well, fizz out. I don't know. That's the best way I could describe what's going on over here. Honestly though, I think most of us had a moment like the one Iruma-kun has in this scene. I know I did when I was back in high school and I was asked, hey, so, what do you want to do with your life after high school? Gotta admit, it's a pretty accurate reaction. Honestly, this whole thing really made the whole school setting feel really appropriate. It's like what I just said. I feel like a lot of people go through something like this. School is, for most, a period where people go through the struggle of starting to figure out who they are and what it is they want to do with their lives. And I like that this show right away basically says, it's okay to not have a straight-up ambition or not be exactly sure. Ameri doesn't chastise him or look down upon him for his lack of an answer. Instead, she encourages him to try to find one. No matter how hard he thinks, though, he just can't seem to come up with one. So, she suggests that he work to improve his rank, as that's a student's duty. And, maybe along the way, he can find his own thing. This leads Iruma to train for an upcoming promotion exam, which is essentially just a game of extreme dodgeball. So to keep it short, he goes through a whole training arc and manages to overcome the odds to claim victory. I do want to highlight this one moment from the game where Iruma's friend Osmodius briefly considers just letting Iruma win, but he realizes if he does, he'll just be robbing him of the experience of having worked hard to earn his victory. Which, again, ties into the whole thing about ambition. At the end of all this, Iruma-kun discovers the satisfaction of working hard at something for no other reason than it was something he wanted to accomplish. Notably, it's after this event that Iruma seems to start to leave behind that attitude of trying not to stand out. I mean, becoming a high school dodgeball champion is kind of the opposite. In fact, he starts to very regularly interact with his other classmates. And they actually do kind of make a joke of this later. But yeah, he starts to stop thinking so much about what other people see him as. So, let's go over this real quick. At its core, this is a series about a kid transferring into an odd new school where he feels the need to hide a part of himself from his classmates and assume a policy of not standing out in order to survive school. But eventually, while at this school, he is pushed to confront the question of what he wants to do with his life and what his higher goals past just surviving school are. And upon pursuing a new goal someone pushes him to try, he starts to give less value to what other people think of him and becomes closer with the classmates he was originally so afraid of. Seriously, once you remove the demons and silly shenanigans thrown in, I think this story by itself has a lot of thought out, clever, and very meaningful parallels to experiences many of us have gone through in real life, or perhaps for a younger audience will experience one day, or are in the midst of experiencing as they're watching this. Now, I think there is another important takeaway from this scene between Iruma and Ameri. Listen to what Iruma says right here.
Feeling better? Yeah, it's just... my entire life. All I've allowed myself to think about was what everyone else was asking me to do for them. I'd never once considered what I want for me.
Now, Iruma's whole gimmick as a character was established at the very beginning of the show. This being that he can't refuse people's request. He can't help but help people. So much so that when Sullivan, the demon who dragged him into the demon world in the first place, tells him he won't keep him there if he really doesn't want to stay, and Iruma really doesn't, Iruma finds that he can't tell the old man no because...
Come on, I'm literally begging, please!
Words Iruma stands no chance against. Number 1, please. Number 2, help. Number 3, I beg of you.
At first, it seems like this is just gonna be a random, goofy quirk of his that serves as an excuse to get Iruma involved in all manner of kooky shenanigans. However, it's with this that I think the show taps into a valuable lesson. One that I feel so many people are hesitant to admit. Especially with shonen-esque shows like this one. And that lesson is that it's okay to be selfish. It's okay to think about yourself. You have the right to do so. Now, typically, thinking of others and helping people is seen as a good thing, and for the most part it is, but like with most things, that's to an extent. When you spend so much time thinking about others and how to appease them, you start to neglect yourself and your needs. That's when it starts to become a problem. Iruma spends so much time thinking about others, he kind of forgets about himself. Look, being helpful to others and thinking about their happiness is good, still, but you always need to remember to make time for yourself. I think that's important for everyone. Okay, gonna go in a little different direction here. Now, this show honestly got me thinking about something. Why do people like to make demons sympathetic? It isn't even like this is something new. I mean, has anyone heard of Paradise Lost? Like, people have been doing this for a long time. So again, why though? Demons are basically supposed to be the embodiments of evil and everything bad. They're supposed to be what you avoid at all cost. You're supposed to look at them for the reference of what not to do. Well, being good is nice, and being nice is good, but all of that also means complying to all these restricting rules and adhering to all these pesky social conventions telling you what you can and cannot do at pretty much all times. So it would make sense that for a lot of people, demons can sort of represent this feeling of rebellion and freedom. Also, being perfectly nice is so hard to truly achieve, but being a horrible mess? I think that's something a lot more people can relate to. It's interesting to me that many of the demons in this show have goals that could be considered too selfish or too extravagant, like becoming a king or pop idol. And they're also very open about their willingness to step over anyone in their way to achieve their goals. But the show really doesn't paint these characters' desires as a bad thing. Rather, I'd say it glamorizes these desires. They have fun with them, and when you see these characters put so much work and effort toward achieving their goals, no matter what, I guess I can't speak for everyone, but for me, it's honestly hard to not consider it admirable. In some ways, it takes bravery to be so true to your desires, and that confidence is also something I find very admirable. Ameri said she's very proud to be a demon, and, well, I kinda get why. There's this one scene that I love that I think perfectly encapsulates the ideology of the demons in this show. In episode 6, these random students are like busting up school property and breaking windows, so Ameri, being school president, comes over and beats the crap out of them. That makes sense, but then she proceeds to kick a giant hole in the wall. See, she wasn't really that mad about these guys destroying school property. She was more annoyed that they were going about it so half-heartedly. It's passion and giving your all toward your goals that these demons respect. Now, personally, I think we all have a little devilish side in us. And to me, one of the biggest messages of the show is that it's okay to let that side out from time to time. Don't get me wrong, we also see in the show what happens when you're too into your devilish side. So, like I said at the beginning, I didn't feel like this show got enough credit when the first season was airing. I mean, it certainly does have its fans. Some die-hard fans at that. Seriously, I swear the fans I do actually find of this show are like big fans of this show. But the thing is, I find that there are so many people hesitant to say that they liked this show or are willing to give it a try to begin with. To be clear, I haven't found too many people who actively hate this show, but who knows, maybe this is all just my personal impression, but I mean, just look at the first results that come up when I search up Iruma-kun anime review up on YouTube. You have Sorry I Slept on Iruma-kun, the best comedy anime I almost didn't watch. This person here feels the need to specify that this show is worth your time and attention. And of course, Welcome to Demon School is bad, but I love it. See what I mean? There isn't like a lot of negativity toward this show, but it feels like so many people are like hesitant to say that they like it or give it a shot in the first place. So, why is this? Well, I have come up with at least one kind of theory. One of the things people often have to say about this show is that it feels like it comes from a different era of anime. From the art style, the sense of humor, and even the basic plot of the show. I mean, the whole setup of one normal guy getting transferred to a school full of monsters, and even having to keep his identity secret to make sure he stays safe, has certainly been done several times before. I feel like it's fallen out of fashion in recent years, but for a while it was a pretty common setup in anime. Now, some people have said this feeling of familiarity and nostalgia is actually a pro to them, but yeah, part of me thinks it's this retro feeling that's the element that is turning away a lot of people from the anime. I think people make assumptions about it because they think they've seen this type of show before. I think it reminds people of an outdated and admittedly cringe-inducing period of anime. I think there's this general attitude that we've left that particular era of anime behind and we've grown past it, so why are we trying to go back there? However, that itself is actually an advantage Iruma-kun has. This series has the advantage of being able to learn from the mistakes of its predecessors. Also, to give this show more credit, being something truly unique and original with all the media out there nowadays is kinda hard. And seriously, it's not like storytellers throughout history haven't always borrowed and built upon the stories of the past. So, this has been my long and roundabout way to say, just because a story is built upon a concept that has been done many times before, doesn't mean that story can't still be both entertaining and compelling in its own right. I mean, as long as those concepts are done well, what's the real problem? And it's not like this show doesn't have a lot of unique and creative touches to it, as I've gone over already. Okay, I guess I'm about ready to wrap up. Honestly, there were a lot more events from the manga relevant to the themes I talked about in this video that I would have loved to go over, but the second season is almost here, and I don't want to get too spoiler heavy to anime-only watchers. Also, this video is getting pretty long. Now, I would love to come back to the series one day. Like I said, there's a lot of juicy events from the manga I still haven't covered yet, and the series just seems like it's going to keep continually expanding upon these themes, so it seems like I'll certainly have a lot to talk about. We'll see. But yeah, I mainly wanted to talk about this show now because, well, like I said, a new season of anime is coming around, and I kinda wanted to try tackling an upcoming show. And, at the same time, I felt like a lot of people really didn't give this show's first season a proper chance the first time around. I have to say, I had a blast digging into this series. There's a surprising amount of depth to this show wrapped up in a fun, silly, and colorful exterior. I think that this is a really good show, with so many charming characters and visuals, some clever storytelling, meaningful messages, and a whole lot of passion crammed into it. This show definitely gets my seal of approval, and I wanted to give it the endorsement I thought it deserved.
Make sure that your guard is up, or else one day I'm gonna swoop